Have you ever empathized or thought about how it feels to be a man and have the pressure of pursuing women and risking rejection?
Women face rejection every single day in the workplace. They get ridiculed for jobs if they're not wearing enough makeup or if they are wearing too much makeup. There are so many other things, and I think we need to just understand that everybody goes through their own levels of privilege and their own levels of discrimination too.
Classic deflection at its finest. You ask a simple question. Can a woman empathize with a man's struggles? And suddenly, she's talking about her own hardships, derailing the conversation to focus on her favorite subject, herself. And the funny thing is, the question didn't mention women at all. Yet somehow, she finds a way to twist it, dragging the spotlight right back to her and her eternal victimhood. It's almost like watching a performance. You see this time and again. Mention a man's struggle, and suddenly you're knee-deep in stories about how rough she has it. She can't answer the question directly, so she pivots, confusing whatever challenges men face now with some tired story about the past and how women were oppressed ages ago. Like, hello? We're talking about modern-day issues here. Anyone who's worked in a corporate setting knows that the endless workshops, seminars, and HR memos on workplace conduct have effectively ruled out anything resembling unfair treatment without someone crying foul. Try even looking at someone the wrong way in an office today, and you're risking a visit to HR. But that's the thing. Ask her to empathize with a man, and somehow she can't see past her own experience. She's been fed a steady diet of girl power and you go girl, to the point where she genuinely believes her struggles are the only struggles that matter. So yes, the empathy gap is real. Men spend their lives being taught to understand, respect, and even defer to women's feelings, struggles, and boundaries. But flip that script? Crickets. Every single time I've asked a woman, "Have you ever tried to put yourself in a man's shoes?" I get a blank stare or, predictably, a speech about her own problems. It's almost like she doesn't get it, or worse, she doesn't care. We live in a society that treats women's issues as universal and men's as an afterthought. So let's be real here. Men empathize with women far more than they get in return. It's time to stop pretending otherwise.
You are correct about the fact that women leave relationships or marriages years mentally before they do physically. And men, yes, are usually blindsided. But you lost me when you said men aren't given a chance to fix it. And women justify that by saying they've asked them 2 to 3 different times for something, and then maybe they just stopped doing it or didn't understand. Men are not dumb. We need to stop treating men like they are stupid. They are human beings, grown-ass adults. And you know what we're not going to do? Ask our partner over and over and over again to love us the way we need to be loved, to give us something that we need, and certainly not over and over to stop doing a bad behavior. We're not talking to toddlers. We're talking to a grown-ass man.
So even though men are blindsided, he should have known because he's a grown adult. And even though women will leave a relationship mentally before physically, he was given the chance to fix it. Even though he didn't know that the relationship that he's currently in ended years ago.
Let's talk about this checking out mentally tactic women love to pull. It's almost laughable. They've decided they're done with the relationship years before actually saying anything, all while they keep you around to pick up the emotional and financial slack. They've got their exit strategy brewing, and you're left like an unsuspecting chump, thinking everything's fine. It's textbook, really. So many of these women think they can just phase out of the relationship in their minds while still reaping all the benefits. Here's the kicker. They get financially rewarded for walking away. Yep, that's the world we live in. Women are full-grown adults capable of working, yet somehow, the divorce system treats them like helpless children who need support. How convenient, right? And if you've ever dared to try and save the relationship by checking in, hoping to solve whatever issues are on the table, you get a runaround. You ask if things are okay, she throws out a tiny issue to make you feel like you're part of the problem. You work on it diligently, and guess what? A week later, she's got a whole list of grievances she's conveniently been keeping to herself. Take this guy's experience. It's almost comedic in its cruelty. First, he asks if anything's wrong. She throws him a bone. "It's just X. Fix that." He fixes it. Then, out of nowhere, a new problem arises. Actually, it's X and Y. Next thing he knows, they're broken up, and in a final twist of the knife, she admits she checked out ages ago and was just plotting her exit. So while she's mentally cutting ties, he's unknowingly still being her emotional support and financial safety net. The whole routine just shows how manufactured these problems are. They've got a backup plan, a narrative, and you're just another prop in their exit story. This is MG Tao's best advertisement in action. The more you listen to these stories, the more you realize, why invest in someone who'll just rewrite the relationship history once she's bored? A relationship should be a two-way street with accountability on both ends. But modern relationships? It's like stepping into a minefield where the rules only go one way. Let's be real. If you're a man, every single problem can, and often will, become your fault eventually. And if there isn't one, don't worry, she'll manufacture one soon enough.
When a woman doesn't want you, what the weak man will do is, when a woman rejects him, he'll fight harder. He wants her more. We don't really want a guy that persistent. What we mean by persistence is we're giving you interest, we're showing you interest, and we want you to return that interest. That's what we mean by playing hard to. But when we're outright rejecting you and you are still showing us interest, we start to see you as somebody who doesn't have alternatives. And by alternatives, we don't mean you need to have other women lined up, but you should have a life that you enjoy with or without us. Now, if you're not accepting our rejection, it makes us feel like you're not living a fulfilling life. And we are not attracted to men that are not living a fulfilling life.
Exactly. If you're a man who respects himself, taking back someone who betrayed your trust isn't just a bad idea. It's handing her permission to do it again. It's like trying to rebuild a broken mirror. No matter how hard you try, the cracks are still there. And believe me, there's no loving harder that'll magically change her nature or make her respect you. When a woman shows even the slightest sign of disrespect, don't try to fix it. Don't even wait to see if it was a one-time thing. Leave. Your self-respect should be the highest priority, not bending over backward to keep someone around who clearly doesn't value you. If you've got standards and a backbone, you won't waste time with someone who's just using you as an emotional or financial crutch. And yeah, that's exactly why a lot of the nice guys turn into players. They learn the hard way that pouring all their love and loyalty into one person won't stop her from breaking their heart. They move on, find new options, and stop putting women on a pedestal. Thanks to those heartbreaks, they finally start seeing things clearly. So for every good guy turned playboy, thank the ones who taught him that some people just play games.
How many hours do you work, Eric?
60 hours a week.
60 hours a week. And how many hours do you work at home?
The same. More. All day, all night.
Really? And then you woke up and realised you were dreaming, you mean?
Well, my day doesn't end sometimes.
What do you mean your day don't end? It don't bloody begin. You spent time on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You spent time just walking around the house, up and down. You spent time walking back and forth from a dining table with your kids. I don't know what you do with your hours. But I tell you one thing as a woman, if my husband's working, I do want to make sure that I'm doing what I should be doing at home. And if now I'm making you think about that, because this is the first time I've seen you become emotional, because it's the first time you've even had to sit and think about your actions. You're right.
This right here is the classic case of entitlement and denial wrapped up in one big dramatic package. She's out here acting like she's some workhorse while ignoring that it's her husband, Eric, who's actually shouldering the heavy lifting. When Eric says, 60 hours a week, you can hear the exhaustion in his voice, the kind that comes from years of busting his back to provide while getting zero recognition. But does she take a second to think, hey, maybe this guy is worn out from pulling the weight around here? Nope. Instead, she throws on the waterworks, crocodile tears rolling, not because she's genuinely sorry, but because her act got exposed. It's always the same pattern. They feign accountability, shed a few tears to look like the victim, and then go right back to their old ways once the heat dies down. She'll probably return to sitting around, barely lifting a finger at home, and still complain that Eric doesn't help enough. And heaven forbid Eric brings up his own feelings, because for guys like him, Talking about their struggles is somehow weak or whining. Society just shrugs and says, well, that's a man's job, like it's some eternal, unquestionable truth. This story hits hard because it's way too relatable. Look at the number of men out there who break themselves day in and day out, only to be treated like an ATM with legs. The worst part? When they finally have enough and try to walk away, their partner suddenly realizes that the lifestyle they took for granted doesn't pay for itself. Like your ex, who thought she could just waltz back in and get back on the gravy train after realizing that bills don't magically disappear once you leave a relationship. Asking for a second chance not once, not twice, but 3 times? The audacity is off the charts. And yeah, it's beyond time that more people stand up for men who've been silently enduring this nonsense. Men aren't supposed to show pain, complain, or ask for support. And when they finally snap, society shakes its head and blames them. That statistic about male suicides is no exaggeration. It's the fallout of men being treated like machines, not human beings. So hats off to anyone calling this out, because men deserve recognition, respect, and the right to say, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And that's it for today on Sigma Traits. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that notification bell. Support this channel through membership. You can also support through PayPal link in the description. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.